So I've got a Fiat Tipo 1.4 2017 model. About to change the brake pads. First things first, we'll release the handbrake and put it into gear. And then chock the front wheels. Okay. So then we can loosen off the wheel nuts at the back. Just slacken the wheel nuts off and jack the back end up that we want to work on. Okay. Now we can remove the wheel nuts. And take up the wheel off, revealing the disc. Now there's a 14mm nut here that needs to be removed. On mine it's a little bit rusty, so I just cleaned it off first. You could use penetrating oil if yours is severe, but there we are. Really easy to remove that 14mm nut. I was dead surprised how easy it was to remove that. And there's one at the top as well, out of frame. Sorry about that. That one's come off. Okay, and a quick deal. Yep, there it is, 14mm nut. Now just wiggle the pad out of place and put it to one side. Still connected to the car. And that reveals the disc. So, now to take the pads out. The pads just fit in really free, really loose and really easy once the caliper's off, and the back one's just the same. There you go. Now there's a shoe at the top and the bottom of the caliper, and my kit had a new shoe in it. It's a little spring-loaded piece of aluminium. It just pinged away. I'm not sure where that went to. The top one just pinged out as well, really straightforward. Just popped a screwdriver behind, and there we go. At this point I cleaned up the caliper. That's the aluminium I'm tucking away. Cleaned up the caliper, wire brushed it. Being careful not to inhale too much. Okay. And then we can go about rebuilding. So we put in the new pad shoes. They simply press into place, top and bottom. There we go. They can only go in one way. It's self-explanatory really. At that point I just press them both down firmly, make sure they were both seated properly, and then we can put the pads back in. First of all, to put the padding upside down. There's only one way for these guys to go in, and you can see the wear indicator on the back of the pad there. Okay, that's great. And that's the front pad on the back wheel, just clipping into place there. There's about 40,000 miles worth of pad there, and they just fit in the little slot, I guess. Really straightforward, really easy. Nothing complicated about this job. Now the actual piston on mine was filthy, so I set about spraying it with brake cleaner. You can't put too much of this on it. I just absolutely bathed it in brake cleaner, get all that crap out of there. Now these pistons on the 2017 model don't push in, they actually turn in. You have to really carefully, there is a special tool for this, but really carefully turn the piston in to get it retracted so you can put the caliper back in place. When you do put it back in place, there's a spring-loaded mount at the top and bottom, and you just have to be absolutely sure that you get that in the right position. There's only one way to do it, and I just put it, at that point I put the bolt in finger tight. I think it just kind of clicks in place at some stage. That's the bottom bolt. In the kit I purchased, I was given 2 new bolts, so it seemed crazy not to use them, and I use a 14mm spanner, but at that point I noticed the internal part of the mount was moving, so I put I think it was a 15mm open-ended on that one. Got quite stuck. There we go. And then I set about finishing tightening it off. Yep, just there, just nipped it up. Not a lot of torque on that, but you'll need to look in the manual to find out exactly what the setting is for this nut. And the bottom one's the same, just nip it up, 2, 3. There you go. That's going absolutely nowhere. Simple as that. And then we can finger tighten the wheel nuts back on. And drop the car down. Drop the car down. Boom. And finally, tighten up the nuts. You'll notice I've only tightened 4. I did apply the locking nut later on. Now I used a Jurid system. I got it from a local garage. It's UK, it cost me £30. It's an OEM kit, and the pads had the brake wear indicator on them. They were really easy to fit. That's the brake wear indicator, as you can see there. They were really easy to fit, absolutely no effort whatsoever. You can see I got black bright doing it. The pads themselves were an advisory on my MOT. On one side I had about 6mm worth of meat left on the pad. That's the one I'm showing now. On the other side I actually had, where is it? There, about 2mm worth. So that was the reason I had an advisory on my MOT, and that's the reason why I had actually changed them today. So just one pad let me down here. The concerning part about it all was you only get one wear indicator on one side of each wheel. And on this one, it never threw up an alarm. That's just the nut again that I got with the kit. Would I do it again? Absolutely. Was it easy? Yeah, it was relatively. It took me about 3/4 of an hour each side, but I really gave the wheels a good cleaning. Hope you can get some use out of this. Thanks very much.